Hey, everybody. We're back for another Empire Business. This time we're going to talk about advertising in the year of 2019, the year of our Lord,
For Lord and
2019.
Savior,
The Lord,
ad buys.
the Lord has seen fit to bless us with a new advertising platform, a new hosting platform entirely. We've made a lot of changes in last year. We want to talk about those. Our new host for stuff is Megaphone, where all of our public feeds are hosted. We also want to talk about our existing ad partner, who shall remain unnamed during the course of this, and maybe how that's been going over the last few months, right around the time of Game of Thrones. It was kind of mid Game of Thrones where we made the switch there. We'll talk about all that, and we also want to talk about a new project that I don't think most of you are aware of yet, but will probably very soon be made aware of. And I guess that like kind of relates to advertising. It's weird. We want to talk about the relationships there and stuff that we're excited about. So I thought what we could do today is kind of run through a demo of our new hosting
Before we
platform.
do that, can we do like a previously on Empire Business?
Previous on, we were not getting the ads that we were wanting to get, the number.
We've been on Libsyn since almost the very beginning of Bald Move. Like very early on our Breaking Bad run, we started getting significant bandwidth bills. I think we got kicked off a hosting solution. Then we went to S3. And
Did we? I don't remember that.
I feel like we like quickly like one of those unlimited accounts. We like blew through the.
We were hosting on our web server account.
Yeah,
That's
how little our traffic was, and then we started getting some big numbers with Breaking Bad, and we had to go to, I think we went to S3, and then like our bandwidth bill just kept on spiraling, and we found Libsyn, and we love Libsyn. Libsyn is a great podcast host. And we were on them for 7 years, and
long time.
Had a pretty good relationship with them. I will say that their back end was starting to, in 2018, 2019, starting to look a little bit creaky compared to some of the others that we were demoing and seeing at like the podcast movement and whatnot. And the other big frustration was that they did decent on selling our largest shows. And when I say decent, like we got a single ad, and it seemed like that was they were happy with it, or they always said that like it's very, very hard to sell stuff in our particular space where we're not Mark Maron. We're not doing a WTF with Mark Maron every week, and you're going to always get 100,000 to 200,000. Maybe when you get Barack Obama on there, it's 1 million, but like they can always count that they get X amount of inventory that they can move. Whereas we, sometimes we have 6 weeks out of the year where there's 500,000 people downloading every podcast in a matter of days, and sometimes we have a show that only 10,000 people download a week. And you can't even say that every year in April Game of Thrones is going to come back, and every year in October Fargo is going to come back, right? So there's challenges to that, but as as a Bald Move fan, the vast majority of our ad inventory goes unsold.
Yeah, and I think we consider ad inventory like 2 to 4, maybe in some cases, slots per episode.
I would be thrilled with 2 ad reads per episode. If like it would be a game changer if we had that. And if you look at the landscape, if you look at the majority of the top 20 podcasts in any particular category in iTunes, they almost always have 2 to 4 ad reads, and that's week in, week out. If they have multiple episodes in a week, they always have that, and we were always underperforming based on our traffic. So it was kind of with a heavy heart, and after like 2 years of like trying to like, okay, what can we do better? We decided that we could do this another year and get the exact same result, or we could try to do something different. So that kind of sets the stage.
So we try to do something different.
Yeah.
And the move with advertising that we made sort of necessitated this host move because the ad partner only deals with this host, and so it's kind of a package deal or nothing.
Yeah.
So we decided to make that move from Libsyn sort of regretfully. I think we lost some things along the way that we'll talk about, and sort of how that affects the way we publish podcasts and stuff like that. Loosely tied to advertising, but we're lumping it in here. So let's do like a demo of the platform, yeah?
Yeah, we're on Megaphone, which if you're not aware of the history, Megaphone used to be Panoply, which
Right.
is this big podcast network, and they decided a year or two ago to divorce the back end from the network. So now Panoply, does it exist, or is it some other
Yeah.
beast now? Okay,
No,
but
I think it still exists.
but
yeah.
they just do content. They don't do hosting, and Megaphone is the hosting platform and the powerful back end and the ad insertion tools and all that kind of stuff. It's like one of like the next gen type of like podcast platforms.
And this is what it looks like. This is the dashboard, and you got a lot of good juicy stats right up front here. Yearly downloads, which is effectively every single download we've had on this platform.
So we jumped over right before Game of Thrones started.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing is like
Was
we
it
had a
before?
big push. We had a big push to get. Yeah, we did. We were
Yeah.
completely cut over by the time we had a big push to do that because we had high hopes to sell. We knew probably the first couple episodes, but we were promised like a 33% sell through rate of our inventory, which means that's 33% not just of the episodes but the total traffic.
Yeah, and I
be
think
monetized.
by the time we got around to actually signing the contracts, we had about 6 episodes of Game of Thrones left, or 6 weeks, and that was essentially a promise of like 2 ads sold for Game of Thrones. Now,
And that was for all. That was not. That was for the instant take. That was for
Yeah,
the.
yeah.
That was for like all 3 episodes. So,
Right. The other thing that sort of changed when we made this move is it became an exclusive ad sales agreement. So we are obligated for any new television show that we cover, like on Bald Move as a Bald Move proper podcast, to work with our now existing ad partner. So we kind of had to move away from Libsyn. So it was a big gamble, right? It was like, okay, can these people sell ads better than Libsyn?
But we also had we worked in some language in the contract. First of all, it was only an 18-month contract, so like another 18 months of not selling any ads.
Yeah, into next year.
Probably wouldn't kill Bald Move. It'd be frustrating and difficult and upsetting, but it wouldn't kill us because thank God we have the club. And also we put some particular provisions in the contract, had it changed to where like if we did because one of our things have always been our radar is like, what if AMC approached us and said, we want you to do The Terror podcast?
Yeah.
They would likely pay for that out of ad revenue. We knew that. So, and this is going to seem prescient by the end of this discussion, we actually carved out language to where we're fine to do exclusive with all the Bald Move things. We're fine to be exclusive for all future Bald Move shows, but third-party collaborations as something that we wouldn't have to get permission because this company and like when we're saying some bad things about a company, it's not Megaphone. Megaphone is the hosting platform. It's our ad agency, which we're not going to name because we're kind of upset with them and we might be throwing them over, but we don't want to. It's really, I'm not even. It's like it's not that they're bad people. It's just I think this is a tough thing to sell what we're doing, and we've heard that from many people in advertising.
Yeah,
This is
everybody
probably the
we've ever
7th
talked
time.
to.
Yeah.
Across the board.
They want, but the thing that's frustrating is one of the reasons we're doing Bald Move. We're up tempoing the Bald movies and the Bald Move TV stuff is like we realize that's hard. So like okay. We're building these audiences up. Like when we started doing Bald Move TV, there's like 2,000-3,000 people would download an episode. We're building that up into like 8 to 10 to sometimes 12, sometimes 16 to 20,000 people download Bald Move TV, Bald movies, and that's like not nothing. Like if you had 3 ads, 2 ads in a Bald Move TV podcast, that's $500 to $1,000 per episode.
Yeah.
That's, we do 52 of those a year, or 45-ish a year.
That pays for an employee, right? Like,
yeah,
that pays for a lot of back end stuff that we need to happen. So
exactly. So we tried to meet people halfway. And it's like, okay, maybe it's tough to sell our content based around episodic television for reasons, but here is it. You can always sell Bald Move TV, Bald movies, and that still remained a challenge. So anyway, sorry for hijacking that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we want to talk about. I want to talk about at some point during this sort of our rationale behind advertising and why in a lot of cases, personally, we need it. Maybe some of our like pain points around advertising, as far as like personal hangups with it, because I know I have a few, and sort of where we sit with those, because I know the audience has. I've seen at least a couple people say, "Well, you're putting these ads in, and I don't appreciate them." But I think we should get to that later.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready to talk about it whenever.
Yeah, maybe when we talk about one of our negative recent experiences. But okay, here's the dashboard. So you got yearly downloads, which for us now is just every download. You got monthly downloads and a percentage growth or shrinkage compared to last month. Live orders, I have no idea what this is, and there's no click through. You can't do anything here, so
Has something to do with ads, though, right?
yeah, it's got something to do with ads. I'm not an ad guy. What do I know? Latest published episodes. And then here's where things start to get interesting is stats. And there's a more robust stats package in this demo, but this is what you get on the dashboard, kind of the latest. Yeah, the highest performing podcasts and the highest performing episodes of those podcasts. Stranger Things looks to have done pretty well.
Yeah, not bad.
Judging by the numbers here.
Too bad hardly any of it was monetized through ads, but...
Was any of it? I'm
we had one read that got canceled because of...
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can kind of get, quick glimpses of daily numbers here, but you got to dig in to the reports section if you want more. So this is a list of all of our podcasts, and the good thing, I guess, about switching over to Megaphone with our existing ad partner is that they are paying for those 5 million downloads that you saw on that dashboard, which, we weren't paying a lot to begin with, but we are getting a better cut on the ads that we are selling, and we do not have to pay any fees for hosting anymore. Right. They cover all of those.
So that this ad company, which will remain nameless for now, is highly motivated because we're costing them money unless they start selling ads.
Yeah, it's $2 CPM. So 5 million downloads on a $2 CPM is something like, is it like $10,000?
Yeah, $10,000 worth of bandwidth.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. You'd think they would want to sell a bunch of ads to cover that.
Must be tough.
Yeah, I guess so. That's what they tell me. So yeah, and you can click through kind of to each of these. This is where you just manage your podcast feeds. Let's go to Dungeons and Demogorgons. You can come in here, and this is a list of all the episodes. You can get the links for posting them wherever you want, and embedded players and stuff.
Do? What's the difference?
It gives you a direct link to the file.
Okay.
So if I were to go, I copy that.
So that okay. I wonder because why do you need that? Is that something you need?
That we don't use it, but I can imagine it being useful for some people.
Okay.
If you want to maintain your own feeds or something like that, sure.
Because I do the Harlots production and publishing pretty much solo, and I was playing around with these things. I'm like, should I click that? And I clicked it, and it went to a check mark and disappeared. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. And this is
Initiate
cool.
bald move self-destruct sequence.
This is nice because you get the embedded player and you can just copy the code and stuff it right into our WordPress stuff.
They haven't. So one of the things that we sold because we did a demo is the sharing button. When I demoed it, had a time code stamp, and I was excited that people could actually embed YouTube. You can go to a particular time. Wait, did you just do it? Is that the secret?
Maybe.
Yeah.
No. Here we go. Start time. I wish it would just change the start time dynamically when you click in there. That'd be nice, but it doesn't. Okay, so you can set a start time of, I want it to start at 0 hours, 10 minutes, and 35 seconds. That's not
what users can't access that sharing, can they? Because that's
that's a good question.
Because one of the frustrating things about podcasts is they're not inherently as discoverable as YouTube and Twitch, whereas Twitch allows you to cut clips very quickly and send it to people. YouTube allows you to embed a particular time code. If you wanted to share with your friend a particular thing that's funny that we do, you can send them a link to the podcast, but then it's well, what happens if it's 45 minutes? And, I was excited that their player would allow us to do something like that. So it doesn't seem like it.
It seems like you can embed it to start there.
But it's not something that a fan could just be oh, here, I'm at this point. Let me share this 30 seconds with somebody.
It doesn't seem like it. Or if it is, I haven't found it. So yeah, it shows an existing list of all of your published episodes. You can also come over here to drafts, and this is where things get interesting with advertising, because you can plan out your inventory for the future. So if, let's say I wanted to go ahead and plan season 4 of Stranger Things, I'd hit season 4, I'd go out to, I don't fucking know, let's say October 2012 or 2020, and I'd set all of those. I'd set the number of pre-rolls, number of post-rolls, number of mid-rolls, and I would just make those episodes. And then what that allows is our ad partner to go in, see that we have these episodes upcoming, and sell ads, and then insert them into the podcast themselves if they're not host reads. So, for instance, I think like the only ads we've really sold so far through this system are Geico ads, and those don't appear. They're definitely not host read ads because we didn't read them. I think they're like the in between, which is ads read in the style of a podcast, or is it?
I think so.
Okay. And those are all planned, and we'll get to those here in a bit. But actually, let me go to Bald Move TV because that's a good example where you can see that stuff. Come on. My one gripe is it's a little slow sometimes.
But there's 3 levels of advertising now.
I have multiple gripes, but
there's host read. That's the familiar. Me and Jim are hawking a product. There's dynamically inserted, which is where like the Geico, where they have a human. I guess it's always human, but they have a human reading it, and they're supposed to make it sound like a pod. Like it's not like a formal, like a Geico radio commercial. Like it's something like more of a straightforward podcast pitch. And then there's what they have, the MTM, which is just 15 to 20 second long, kind of like what you would hear on radio, terrestrial radio pitch for something,
Starbucks or whatever, and they're talking about a frappuccino.
Yeah, and those are just always like if those things, like if you fit the criteria because of where you live, or if there's demographics data that your podcast provides through some method, and you meet those criteria, it just goes ahead and grabs that, embeds it automatically into your audio, and then we get paid each month for that.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really interesting on the NTM side as far as like what kind of control we have, how granular that is. And actually, I forgot to do this before we recorded. Can you try and find the email or the list of categories or whatever we sent to them, because that'll come in handy later.
I will try to do that.
Okay, I'm going to keep rolling with the demo. So I've scheduled everything for Bald Move TV out through November, the end of November, so that they can sell ads on those things, hopefully. And that's kind of mostly it for the podcast section. Let's go over to inventory, talking about those scheduled posts, because then you can come in here and see in each of these posts that I have already scheduled, or podcasts that I've already scheduled, you can see all of the ad slots that you've set up, and you can see what's been placed in them, if any. So right now we have this week on Bald Move TV, we're going to have a Geico ad running as a post roll at the end. And we know that because it shows up here. And there's a way, so if you click on these, you can kind of go in and see all of the info about that particular placement, ad placement. It has a goal of 1 million and a cap of 1 million. I think they just put that so that it will never be hit. And we can, charge for every impression essentially. No. I guess it's a flat rate. So they said, we don't want the cap to be hit because we want it to go to everyone who ever listens, because they're paying a flat rate. So, I don't deal with this stuff. This is all our ad company, ad partner who's filling this information in. So I don't know a ton about it.
We do approve these ads.
Yeah, we approve every host read you ever hear will be approved by us. We'll have, in all likelihood, we probably wouldn't do an ad without this. We have tested the product. We have engaged with it ourselves. Then the level down, like the Geico ad that they're running, is stuff that we have checked. We have checked off a list of categories that we have pre-approved. So you won't hear things about like self-help remedy, like medical
I've got
remedies.
The list of categories we excluded.
Okay, bring it on. That's perfect.
Under the education, homeschooling, the entire healthy living.
As someone who is homeschooled, yeah, let's not.
Yeah, under healthy living, the entire category, healthy living is essentially vitamins, supplements.
It's like homeopathic stuff.
Yeah, and like there's some things like we had a potential thing that we approved where it's kind of like a subscription-based exercise service that reminded me a lot of P90X, which Jim and I used to a lot of success in like about 10 years ago. Like got in the best shape of my life. And I was really interested. So but you know, it's just this entire thing is so fucking sketch. I don't want vitamin oil to be sold on Bald Move. Hobbies and interests, we excluded paranormal phenomenon because like I'm not offended if you guys believe in ghosts and shit, but we don't. And
what I really don't want is that fucker from the History Channel with the crazy hair getting on. Slipping an ad by us, right?
Right.
Like, just ban the whole category.
Medical health, that's a touchy subject because it involves like essentially practicing medicine over the internet in a lot of cases, and we've gotten some negative feedback from doctors and eye doctors or ophthalmologists and dentists about some of that stuff. I mean, there's a couple things like I would for sure sell a Quip toothbrush because I like vibrating
brushing your teeth is good, and it's really hard to fuck that up in a way that kills you. Or causes you long-term health concerns.
And then like certain things like the keeps. Like, you know, like that's proven to work. Like if you put that shit on your head, you will stop losing hair in 90% of instances. But like, it's sketch. Some of that stuff is sketch. Music and audio, we excluded gospel music, religious music, and religion and spirituality podcasts, which for what I assume is obvious reasons in our our personal back catalog of our history. News and politics, we rejected the entire category. Again, not because we'd be opposed to all types of advertising, but since these are just binary yes or no at these category levels, the idea that we would advertise something we find heinous is pretty high. Personal finance, under personal debt, we eliminated that because we don't.
Yeah, we got an offer for some pretty damn high interest credit card, and borderline predatory, like targeted at teens.
Targeted at young people and people in college, and and we looked at the APRs and they're like up to 29%, and I'm like, this is fucking slavery, man.
Yeah, so we turned it down, and then we went ahead and banned that category.
We don't want that category. Pop culture, the entire category. Why do we do that?
Yeah, why do we do that?
Some of the categories must have been sketch. I'm guessing that it's also. I don't know, like they would advertise something that maybe we found offensive, or I don't know. We disallowed the entire religion spirituality category, and that's about it. So essentially, like we tried to shut off like what are the categories that we either find personally distasteful or we think are kind of like broadly bad faith actors or would lead the Bald Move community down paths that we could see could possibly be bad, you know? So, yeah, but there's obviously there's a lot, and I would say that if you ever hear an ad that you personally find offensive or you think like hey, this sounds like snake oil, or I know for a fact this company is bad because of XYZ, feel free to send that in to host@baldmove.com, because like if we find out what's causing it, we are there's kind of like a descending order of trust. If it's a if Jim and I are personally talking about something, we make sure that we've tried the product and we are satisfied that it will do the things that it's saying it will do. It doesn't necessarily mean that we think it's the greatest product in the world, although like I think there's also times where like when we're talking about like Casper mattresses or Away luggage, it's like, nope, those are fantastic products. Like you might not like it, but they got a 100-day try, like if you can't figure out whether the mattress is for you in 100 days, that's on you, man. But we love it. We sleep on it. And there's others that are like, we're more neutral. It's like maybe this isn't necessarily something that super excites us, but it's a good product and does what they say. And if we can't use the product, we won't advertise it. And if we don't believe in the product, we won't advertise it. Then you've got the dynamic inserted reads, those are like Geico. It's like, I don't, you got to have insurance. Like, is Geico the best? I don't know. Is it the worst? Probably not. It's a product we're advertised, but we're not personally endorsing it. And then the MTM is just stuff that we don't think is offensive, but we have no personal relationship with these companies. So
And we don't even really have a way to monitor exactly
No.
the ad that goes up. We couldn't listen to the ad if we wanted to,
Yeah.
because we're probably not in your region. We're probably not your demographic. That stuff is dicier, which we blocked more categories than that.
and there's still some work we need to do to better integrate these ads that are being, because it used to be that Jim would always let what's called burn in. Like if you go back and listen to a podcast from 4 or 5 years ago, we're no longer getting paid to, for example, Casper, advertise Casper, or not currently, but like all of our Game of Thrones ads that had Casper, that they're going to be there forever and ever and ever. This system's nice in that once we sold the 100,000th Casper placement, it gets yanked out.
Which enables us to very easily sell back catalog slots.
Right, and also
Which we couldn't do before.
Keeps like the back catalog is going to be it's either going to be ad free if we're not getting paid for it, or if you're hearing an ad, I guess you can take some satisfaction that it's that money supporting Bald Move. But on the other hand, if you're listening to this, you're a club member, you shouldn't be listening to ads. You should be getting on the ad free feeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is, like, I think we need to do a better job, because a lot of the, we talk about the top 20 and the different verticals. What's clear to me is that they have these like baked in spots where they have bumper music, and sometimes it's like they take a break, it's an interlude, and it's just like 5 seconds of music and goes right back into content. That's where they had no ad sold.
They failed.
But like we need to do that, because right now I think the big problem is it's jarring. Like you go right from a high energy Geico ad to literally a half second later Jim going like, "Hey everybody, welcome," and there's no real separation there. And we need just to work on that on our production kind of a planning, and we're trying to get better at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go to the reports tab, because that's where things get interesting for us as podcasters. We can kind of see like we don't have a lot of cause to look at these podcast sell through things, because we haven't sold very many ads, if any. So you can come in here and you can add a podcast and say, I want to see how well Bald Move TV and Bald Movies and Dungeons and Demogorgons performed during all of this year. Why not? And go ahead and run that, and it will show you the total inventory you had, how much you sold, and how much you did not sell. So that's just like, as a measure of how well we're doing as far as ad sales, that's a nice, handy way to do it. They have more.
These are not
granular
great
stuff.
numbers. I'm not an ad guy, but I think those are not great numbers.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like selling single digit ad inventory is not good. But then you got a lot of stuff that we don't really mess with, because we don't dig too granularly into our stats very often. But this is kind of the main one that we do use to determine how well a show is doing. And you can kind of add by, you can look at the stats by the podcast, at the podcast level. You can look at them at the episode level. I'm going to stick to podcast level for now. Let's take a look at, these things, same three. It's kind of the big ones that we're dealing with currently. And this defaults to like a month of time, which doesn't work for the vast majority of stuff we do. Fuck it, let's go here. Run that report, and we can see number of downloads for these podcasts as a whole. And I like that it's color coded with these dots and these spikes. Or you can just look at it and know which show you're seeing without having to mouse over and go, oh, that's Bald Move TV, that's Bald Movies. All color coded, all very nice. At the bottom, you can get a complete total for these shows over the life of, for this, it would be the life of our Megaphone partnership, but I don't know. It's decent reporting. I think it's not quite as good as Libsyn's reporting. I think Libsyn had the option to sort of look at things a little more comparatively over time. This doesn't quite have that stuff. I
feel like the Libsyn was designed to get you like stats around shows and episodes, whereas this allows you to cross compare across those. And then like it seems like it's intended like if you want more than that, then export it to CSV and do it yourself.
Right.
Which that's something we need to get a handle on.
That kind of
too.
sucks. Like,
yeah.
Hopefully they'll build this out a little bit more and we'll get more granular as we go. But that looks like a good report. Run that. This is Bald Move TV by episode. So obviously I should have chose.
Also, the other thing is I think that like from Megaphone's built around ads, and from an ad revenue perspective, like the episode per episode numbers are much less important than like the last 30 days of your entire feed, because it's dynamically inserted. So like who gives a shit if this episode
this is built as an ad first platform, whereas Libsyn is built as a podcaster host
that's 10 years old, and you know.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of information in Libsyn.
Yeah, for sure.
Their interface is not as nice. I'll give them that.
Right.
So yeah, this is like daily numbers, seeing how many downloads they did. This is also color coded, which is nice. And then you can get totals at the bottom. So that's pretty much all the reporting stuff that I use. You can get like geolocation, what devices they're using and stuff like that. Might be interesting to go in here.
Let's look at the countries. I want to see.
Oh, the countries.
I'm just curious.
I want to see how many people listen on phones versus computers. I'm sure the number is like 90% on phones. What podcast do you want?
Let's do Game of Thrones. That's the largest, most cosmopolitan one, right? Seeing like how many, like what countries, what kind of country penetration we have.
Yeah, back to April Fool's Day. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wow. Interesting.
United States.
9% of traffic from UK. That's incredible.
Yep. And then Canada, Australia, and others.
Yeah. Where do you get that other? Can you click on the others and it breaks it down? Like how many? Also, is there a way to find out how many total countries are represented?
It breaks it out, but not
scroll down and see if you can see. Oh yeah, here we go. How many?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Scroll down. Keep scrolling. I want to see if there's a count of. Oh man, look at this. Look at all these countries.
One download from Kosovo. I can't. This is my number one complaint with this platform is that this fucking button is. I don't even know if you can see it on our video screen, but you cannot get rid of this button, and it blocks things constantly.
Yeah,
like I can't get the total number of downloads on a podcast because this fucking chat button is in the way. But so let's go with.
I like that.
Congo.
The Cook Islands, baby.
Okay, let's 2 downloads from the Cook Islands. Probably the same person with 2 different. I don't know, the same household, I'm sure.
Nice.
Unknown. What would this show me? Podcast audience, I'm like country, region, and city. Oh, it would show me like a region or a city.
Yeah. If you go to go to UK, that'd be fun.
Does that imply that the Cook Islands only have one region?
Probably.
One city?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back. What do you want to see?
Yeah, go to UK or something.
Okay.
Because that you can probably have different regions. You got to hit the zoom button.
Can't just click the thing, huh? There you go. England, pretty big.
Yeah.
You got Wales. You got Scotland.
Yeah, Scotland, Wales.
The unknown,
the unknown,
the vast unknown of the United Kingdom.
That's where Anthony Bourdain always wanted to take you. The unknown.
Well, he's there now. Northern Ireland. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty cool.
Here's what I want to see.
So can you click on? So didn't I presume you could click on like Wales and get to the different Welsh towns and cities and provinces and whatnot?
Let's find out. UK. You can't just click on those. That's kind of annoying.
Do jolly old England.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
Manchester.
Bristol. Oh God, I could spend all day on this screen just looking at the silly names of the towns. Not to say America doesn't have some fucking silly names.
Yeah.
But there's a special kind of silly.
There's Tottenham.
Yep, and Rotherham, probably. A lot of ham.
Sevenoaks. I like that. I like the sounds of that town.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
All right, let's head back. I want to check out this devices one. We'll figure this out together. Let's get got.
Mm-hmm.
And then roll it back to April. Boom. Apple. God, Apple just destroying everyone.
You can scroll it back. I want to see the big pie chart. Wow. Really? 60%?
And I mean, that's just Apple Core Media. Then there's Apple Watch. Then there's iTunes.
Holy fuck. I thought Android would be a much larger nowadays.
Google Podcasts on Android. And then Chrome. But that's probably desktop.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you look at this, it's all fucking mobile. Nobody listens to podcasts on desktops. Other than you, I know you do.
No, I actually don't.
No, I'm talking
Oh,
to
you're talking to the royal you.
Yeah.
There are people that do it for sure.
But yeah, actually, where's Spotify in this? Is Spotify like they have a weird arrangement where they keep separate stats?
Yes, just Control F and search for it.
I mean, I don't think it's on here.
Really?
Is my thing, because yeah, it's like
here it is, Spotify. 178 people.
Huh. We don't do very well on Spotify.
No, we don't.
Spotify's like 10% of the overall podcast listens now. And it is not reflected here.
Do we have Game of Thrones on Spotify? I guess we'd have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not popular on Spotify. We're two almost 40 somethings and over 40 somethings that just don't play on Spotify.
It's millennial bullshit right there. Spotify. What does it even mean? It's not even a word. Spotify?
But that's basically it for the platform. I think it's pretty good. There is this promo slot which we don't actually use currently, but we want to. So the way promos work, if you can't read for yourself, promos work like orders, but will never be played when an ad competes for the same slot. To see archive promos, click on this thing that doesn't look like a link. I don't know that promos are going to work out great for club ads, which is what we kind of originally, when we were introduced to this, envisioned using them for, because of that fact that they will never be played when an ad competes for the same slot. So you have to slot your promo in, and if they sell out your podcast entirely, you just won't hear a club ad, which is unacceptable in my opinion. It's almost like in order to use this, we have to go to inventory and we have to block a slot specifically for a club ad, right?
Can
like
we do
let's
that?
say, yeah. So we can go into this mid-roll and we can place a hold on it to where we will insert our own club ad and we can upload the audio for it and everything.
Or we have like enough ad slots where like if we're selling 3 ad slots, we'd always make sure there's 4. So, but I'm also like, I guess if we fully sold out a podcast, like that's going to be, maybe it won't be rare, but like if it's rare enough,
I hope it's not rare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but like but if like we were constantly selling at 2, but rarely 3, we could just have 3 in one of the slots and then the club ad will run there unless. But also, like, as the back catalog rolls off, like, it's unlikely that it's going to have as many ad sales. So, you can it can get there.
Yeah, one of the cooler features, actually, about this thing is that you can tag episodes of podcasts across the board, across every podcast that you have. Tag episodes with advertising tags, which they can use to then fill slots on those episodes based on those tags. It's like, let's say we put, I don't know, a new Coke tag into all of our Stranger Things episodes, and then maybe like a couple of Bald Move TV things where we were talking about, oh, I got new Coke or whatever, and I tried it. Then it would insert ads into, you could insert not just based on like, here's the show, but really whatever you wanted, which is cool. We don't currently utilize those. Which we probably should, just for the sake of having a back catalog with those already inserted.
It's also cool that we could have, like, let's say we record a promo and it's entertaining and funny, and then we do another one, and we can just build up a library of these things that will just all be randomly rotated through.
Yeah.
And we can do the same thing for, and then also, like, if we're doing a club sale, we can throw that in, and I think it's the way to go, because, like, the one of the things we're also trying to do is get like a set day where we do all of our ad reads, because it's the biggest pain in the ass to go through and record the podcast, and then you get all the video, and then you got to go and you got to do the housekeeping segment, and you got to do the ads, and you got to figure out what the ad reads, and it's just like you just got done recording like a 2-hour Game of Thrones podcast. The last thing you want to do is try to come up with an ad read and do it.
Yeah.
So we're like, maybe come in on Monday morning while we're fresh and like, okay, what ads do we have to fulfill this week? Okay, let's high energy, let's do it, and then we upload those things. We don't have to worry about it because they just automatically get inserted into the thing and done.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll get there.
So yeah, promos are more for like, I think we're going to start doing some of this, which is cross promoting our own shows in other feeds. It's like, a lot of people probably listen to, I don't know, Fargo or Dungeons and Demogorgons, and they don't know that we do Bald Move TV. because they instinctively, whenever they hear any housekeeping or ad type stuff, they skip it and they never hear about it. What we can do, though, is use these promo slots to sort of insert that stuff dynamically, to where, I mean, I think it works like that. I think you can use the promo as kind of like a temporary feed drop. Can you do that?
Huh.
Maybe that's not how promos work.
I mean, why couldn't you do a promo and set it? Can you just tell it whether it's pre? Because that would be the perfect thing to do. You could say like just insert all these as pre-roll, right?
Advertisements, target promo on specific podcasts. Oh, target all episodes. Yeah, so it doesn't seem like you can just do a episode drop
frequency
that goes in. And
why would
leaves.
They distinguish between mid-ad and post, or mid and post, unless you can target it?
You can target it in ad
by
slots,
position?
But I was talking about like
the position is where you put it in, right?
Inserting it into the feed as sort of an episode, and then having it come out automatically, so you don't have to go back in and delete that.
Could you like just have a 1 second of silence MP3 that you upload, and then that would, that would grab
probably
that? Yeah, I don't know.
Until they sell an ad on it.
Unintended consequences there.
Probably. Yeah, so I don't know how we're going to use promos, but we're going to dig into it a little more and check it out. That's pretty much the demo.
It's the wave of the future.
Now, should we talk about our new ad partner and some of the stuff that's been going on with that?
Yeah, because this is breaking news. We were approached 3 weeks ago by a producer at Starburns Audio. Now, if you don't know that name, Starburns Industries is a production company that, among other things, makes Rick and Morty. Starburns Audio is the podcast network that, among other things, has produced Harmontown, one of my favorite podcasts. And this guy was driving around, and he was fretting about the fact that they had these big plans for Rick and Morty podcast. They wanted to do all like have coverage for all episodes to get it primed for the Rick and Morty's release, which they knew at the time. No one else knew was going to be released in mid-November. Now it's post San Diego Comic-Con. But he was listening to our Stranger Things coverage, and he's like, damn, these guys can like crank through a lot of episodes, and they don't have screeners or anything. So he sent us an email and wanted to know if we'd want to talk about doing an official Rick and Morty podcast. So we talked to this guy, and we're pretty impressed with some of the stuff he's talked about, just like industry and some of the kind of plans he had. And we love Rick and Morty, and we have come to an agreement to do the. We are doing a podcast for in conjunction with Starburns Audio.
Yes.
And we can't call it the official because this is a process. They're actually we're definitely doing a podcast. It might become the official one depending on what the parent company of, once it finally gets to the attention of the parent company of Cartoon Network, which I think is AT&T at some.
Yeah, Warner Media.
Yeah, Warner. So it's got to bubble all the way up through there. But we're doing an official partnership with Starburns Audio, and it's exciting. Because number one, they have made some promises of access to people.
Yeah,
and they have said
not specific people, not like, oh, you're definitely gonna get this person and this person, but great access to above and below the line people on this.
Right. And they've and he said we could talk about factual occurrence of how the conversation has gone, because the early goings on, we are going to be provided so the plan is to hustle out and get all season 1 and season 2 banged out, which is we're gonna have a very aggressive release schedule, and you'll be seeing that start next week. But then when we get to mid-September and we're 10 weeks out from Rick and Morty coming back, we're going to cover season 3 on an episode-by-episode basis. And we're going to really plus this production because Starburns has opened up their Rolodexes, and they're opened up their scheduling and coordination departments. And we're going to have interviews with people that work on the production of Rick and Morty. There was talk of having Jim and I go out to LA in the weeks before season 4 to actually appear on Harmontown.
Maybe.
which my head almost exploded because that's been like a fantasy of mine for a long time. We're going to get inter-network promos with other Starburns podcasts. We might be doing interviews with those people. We might have some of those personalities on our show. They're going to help us schedule, like, one of the things we're have set as an ambition, and all this stuff could change. So don't hate me if what we deliver is less. It's because
this is just part of the conversations we've been having.
It's part of the conversation.
Nothing's been really promised so far.
But we want to have interviews with like astrophysicists and philosophers and psychologists to kind of bring in some of this other kind of heady material that Rick and Morty traffics in and make it kind of like the ultimate resource for Rick and Morty. And we also will talk to writers and voice talent and some of the hopefully some of the producers. And we're just really excited about it because the Starburns guy has built. Starburns was born when like Earwolf, which was kind of collapsed, and what they've built in like the last 18 months is really impressive. And this guy, if you've been listening to Empire Businesses, we've had this kind of like call of we need to find a Robert Koo, which is Robert Koo is the guy who, when Penny Arcade was struggling as a webcomic, was this business graduate from the University of Washington who found Mike and Jerry in a local arcade and said, let me work for you for free for 3 months. And if you think I'm worth it, then we can discuss my salary. And he turned them into the global brand that they are today. And I don't know that like this guy, gentleman, I'm not going to name names because like, we haven't talked to him about it, but like, he's got a lot of great ideas for how to build networking and how to, like, for example, one thing that we've been struggling to get for a long time is screeners, and we get some progress here and some progress there, but it's an uphill battle. For whatever reason, these people like super value TCA credentials and access, and
that's the big thing. Like so all of these ideas, that he's been having are the ideas that we've independently had for in some cases years, and just haven't had the ability to go out and do it, whether it be time constraints or just networking constraints,
personnel
we don't know
limitations.
Right. People don't take podcasting seriously when it comes to like coverage of television for some reason. It's all about the written word, right? But Scott seems like he has those connections. He's able
to use the person's name, but we'll keep a first name basis.
Yeah, Scott.
Okay. I was trying to keep people's names out of the thing, but you
were you? I could have sworn you said it, but okay.
Maybe I have because I tend to do that.
Well, I mean Scott's not his real name anyway. I used a fake one, so
it's an acronym. It's the scientific computerized.
Well, now you're drawing so much attention to it.
Omega
people are going to remember it.
Tit.
It's like James S.A. Corey. It's not a real person. It's
it's an amalgam. It's an amalgam of several executives we've talked to in the last 3 weeks.
But he seems to have, and maybe it's a she. I don't know. Who knows what this nebulous Scott thing is?
Yeah.
They seem to have the ability to open some of those doors. And actually make movement on these ideas that we've had for a long time.
Yeah, like he essentially just sent a couple emails, and now we've got guaranteed screeners for
The Terror.
We got guaranteed screeners for The Expanse. We've got screeners for Hulu's Harlots. Like it's
potential screeners for the Expanse. I don't think it was guaranteed.
Yeah, like he just sends emails like, hey, and he knows these people on a first name basis, and he's like, hey, I'm working on a new project with these guys, Bald Move, and they've got the #1 podcast for this and that, and they're really hoping to get this, and like suddenly we've got all this access just because he essentially said so.
The name Starburns carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. So it's been very, very exciting, and he's kind of like his role is he sees it as kind of like a producer, but also like a developer, a talent developer, and he's giving us just an enormous amount of free mentoring and advice
and support, as far as actually going out and making some of these things happen.
Yeah. So, and also like our arrangement with Starburns is such that if we deliver a decent amount of traffic on these Rick and Morty podcasts, it's also potentially not only, I mean, when Jim and I were talking about this, because like you never can tell with advertising and traffic like what you're going to get, but like the all this soft stuff that we're talking about, we decided like is kind of worth busting our ass on Rick and Morty. It's one of those things where it's like I'm glad, because most comedies we probably would have turned down. But Rick and Morty, we've talked about, is like, one of those comedies where there's enough there with all the other kind of big questions they ask, and like character development and the science fiction concepts, that we felt like we could do a pretty good podcast.
And we have done podcasts on it before.
Yeah. We had like, I think 7 or 8 existing Rick and Morty podcasts. And, it always is, when there's a year where Rick and Morty comes out, it's always in, the top 3 positions of like the comedies that year. I'm having an elaborate series of heart attacks for some reason now. But it's good, and like I said, so we're learning a lot. We're stretching. We're also, like, this could be lucrative for us. There's a lot of opportunities with the people that we're talking to. He's introducing us with a lot of like new people that are active in the podcast game, or have are pretty high profile writers of publications, and you're probably in the next couple weeks and months going to be seeing some of those voices, because we're trying to we're trying to network. So that's the way. It seems like a key to growth is networking with other people and kind of passing everybody around and sharing audiences. And if we don't want to do that with just anybody, but the people that they're suggesting are pretty high quality.
We're going to vet them at least as much as we vet the companies that we run ads for.
Right. So it's just really exciting. Now, this is an enormous amount of work. Like, we are essentially producing 2 Rick and Morty podcasts a day for the next like 3 weeks, and then it'll get a little bit easier, which is good, because there's a whole shit ton of things that come back in the air. But we also have screeners, which is going to help us like manage the time a little bit better. Some of these shows we have screeners for, it's entirely possible that we drop the episode, like our podcast will come out the exact same time the episode, so you don't have to wait 2 days. We'll have, and then maybe we'll do like a feedback
coverage
wrap up or something like that. That's a question of how we integrate that stuff. But these are real exciting things, and we have every hope of getting like screeners now for like The Watchmen and some of the HBO projects. Like, I think this is going to be almost a new normal. Because everything that we've asked for, we've gotten. So
it does feel like things are moving quickly, which is good.
But we also say that like things keep getting in the way of the Empire business. I can't guarantee that we're going to have an Empire business every week in the next 3 weeks. So this Empire business, we're going to try. But there's a lot of work that goes in behind producing. Like this one, we could just kind of tell, this is a story we're telling. This is, we had advertising here. Here's the new thing. We can demo it. This is the kind of disappointment we're facing with their existing ad and then now the Starburns thing. But like some of the others that we're doing where, we got to go in and talk about, our accountant just got our 2018 books closed. Yes, and this is actually a new world record. It's not like
it's not October.
It's not right up against
whatever
the September 15th deadline is. So like, and also I got an email from her yesterday that says that she's almost got her 2019 books caught up. So like, we're getting better, but like that stuff just takes a lot of prep, and we are keeping the bare minimum Bald Move stuff going while we're doing Rick and Morty, while I'm doing Harlots and Legion with Jason, while we're doing Bald Move TV, and while we're doing Bald Movies. We got to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We got to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood tonight. I'm just saying that like we might not be as consistent on Empire business as we want. Now, once we get through August, and we're down to like once a week on Rick and Morty production, and things kind of return to normalcy, then we can get those things caught back up. But this is kind of fair warning that unfortunately we're not going to be able to serve some of this club content because, and hopefully you guys will be excited for us and you'll see the advantages of this opportunity, and we'll think it's worth it. But yeah, just want to put that out there that we might miss an Empire business or 2 or 3 over the next couple weeks just because we are crazy busy on the Rick and Morty stuff.
Yeah, and I guess the way this sort of ties into advertising is we are going to have some kind of advertising relationship with whatever entity Starburns is using. Not sure if it's Himalaya. I know they've done some stuff with Himalaya, but
yeah, they're really high on. They've got a lot of advertising contacts. They work with a lot of people. Obviously, Starburns does a lot of advertising in their podcast segment, and Scott did say that like our style of content is a challenge, but he's got some suggestions on how we can kind of maybe mitigate that. And also he seems pretty it's like Starburns was interested in building out a media kind of pop culture arm, because like their core content right now is essentially like comedians, you know, those types of podcasts, but they've also started going into like the murder mystery, but the real true crime, I guess, is the genre. They've also gotten a little bit of politics. And they're actively building like, you know, pop culture commentary. So like they realize they have to get good at this kind of stuff anyway. And I think he's got some good plans. So, like we said earlier on, we had a provision in our contract with our existing ad company that we could do these third-party deals, and kind of like exclude that from the exclusivity that we have with this other ad agency. So we're also excited that if Starburns can better perform, because there was some promises made at certain metrics, and there was agreements that if, you know, since this is an 18-month contract, if they weren't hitting those within, we've already had one meeting where we're like, you know, hey, we've been doing this for 6 weeks and we've had 0 ad sales.
And they said, here's a couple points that you can, you know, work on to help us out, like putting ad slots in every episode, and we've done all that stuff.
Turnaround, same day turnaround on approvals and stuff, and we've been humping to do all that, and it still hasn't. Like we had, okay, so here's a good story about how we try to do things correctly. We were approached by to do an ad read for a online delivery service, and
let's call it Scott.
Let's call it Scott. The online service, Scott's Online.
Just to confuse everyone.
We downloaded the app, and we were supposed to get like $35 worth of credit to try it. It was like the night before we had to do the ad read, and they hadn't done it. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll pay. You know, this is just to get the ball rolling. I'll go ahead and pay out of my own pocket. So I ordered $30 worth of Mexican food from the local Mexican joint, and my final bill for that was like $65. And there was like very little visibility into it, and the app, it was confusing because like they say that if you use a non Scott's Online partner, that the final total may be different. Which, you know, okay, fair enough, but like I didn't think it was going to be like my total bill was supposed to be like $37 is what was quoted to me, and what I actually paid was $65, not including the tip to the driver. And it's like, and we're like, this is fucking ridiculous, and went back and forth, and they tried like, oh, we'll give you $100 of the credit, and we'll give you white glove customer service, because I went through customer service because that's what as much as possible. Everybody makes mistakes. There's you know, there's going to be fuck ups, but I had this unique opportunity to go through without them knowing who I was, and go through their support system, and they're essentially tough titty, you know. Pay more attention next time.
Yeah, like these are our policies.
Yeah, it's just you use the verified listers, and there is a tiny little UI element that lets you know that in the thing, and I'm just like, okay. And they were like, oh, we can do better, but we're just like, I don't know, man. If I would feel so bad if there was a Bald Move fan that, you know, it's like, hey, you know, my kid's sick, maybe I can order something and I'll have it delivered tonight, and it's fine, I'll splurge $30 for the convenience, and then it turns up being $60-$70. Like, I would feel terrible. So and again, maybe this service works great in LA, maybe it works great in New York City, maybe it works great in Chicago because there's more merchants that are on board with the infrastructure, but like in Cincinnati it worked poorly.
And I had a problem the very next day because I was like, okay, well, let me try it.
Yes.
And I was looking through the list, and I saw on the list, and it would have let me place this fucking order, a restaurant that I know for a fact is closed permanently because I live right down the street from it, and I drive by it every day. So, like, the idea that I could be ordering food and waiting while my sick child is, you know, laying in bed coughing and dying, and now here I am thinking food is coming, and 2 hours later it's never arrived. What do? Call them and they help me figure this out while I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Like,
are they going to dispatch? And plus, the nightmare scenario is they dispatch a driver, so like you're going to get hooked with a fee no matter what.
Right.
Because well, you should have looked for the little green star that's like by the listing.
Yeah, it was just a bad experience for both of us. I think you had a much worse experience, although I would have had a bad one if I tried to place an order.
Yeah.
For that restaurant.
Indeed. So we passed on that because again, like and maybe we'll try a couple months from now because like people can also do better. The app can be improved. We gave him some feedback and stuff, but we just like canceled the very first live read we were supposed to get because it didn't meet our standards. And like if it's going to be bullshit for us, it might be bullshit for you guys, and that's the last thing that we want to happen. So
Yeah.
I forget why. I guess that's just patting us in the back for being ethical for our sellout.
Well,
But,
it was the larger topic of how this is all working out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had a conversation with them, and we fixed some pain points that they were having with our methods, and we still haven't seen any new ads come through. We see a lot of like approvals. Hey, do you want to advertise this? Do you want to advertise that? But nothing has materialized. At least host read stuff. So I don't know. I mean, we haven't gotten our first check yet for MTMs. Maybe we're doing spectacularly on the MTM side, right?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a check for $10,000 for the
Right.
first 2 months, and we'll go, okay,
It's still
cool.
less than they were talking about, but
Yeah.
talk about your personal, because we talked about people complaining about some of the ads, and like we said, we definitely I think can do better.
Right.
As far as production, to make it a little bit more seamless, or a little bit more, have like music that plays so you can easily identify it's an ad and it's separate. But like, I think the theme of this is like, we kind of get it. Like you especially, talk about how you feel about this shit.
I think I'm more, man, got a lot of people chatting outside. I think I'm a little more hesitant on the ad side and a little more annoyed by ads in general than you are as a podcast listener.
I think is that a function of which podcast we listen to?
It could be, because I listen to the vast majority of stuff I listen to is premium feeds, like Giant Bomb. I listen to premium stuff, so I don't get ads very often. And it honestly, frankly, annoys me a little bit when they slip in a premium ad, like, hey, go sign up for premium. We're having a sale on premium. I get it because you can extend your membership, so it's kind of beneficial for premium members, and it's not the worst. But like some of the podcasts I listen to have a couple of ads an episode, if that, and they're host reads. They're all host reads. I don't see any MTM stuff. I have seen MTM stuff on YouTube where like mid-roll MTMs, where those will pop in the middle of somebody's dissecting an amplifier or something, or an old computer, and boom, here's an ad for Starbucks, and those annoy the shit out of me. I don't think we do MTMs in the middle of podcasts.
I don't think so
but
either.
It's really hard to
pre and
tell.
post rolls, yeah.
So yeah, I'm a little more annoyed by them, I think, than you are. But I also understand the realities of both the podcast market and also personal finance here, because I understand that I am in a much more comfortable position currently with the level of Bald Move financially than you are. And so, like, as I hope a good friend and a good business partner, I want to support you in that. And so I kind of push some of that to the side, and I'm not super on board with MTMs, but I think they might be a necessary evil at this point.
But that's the thing, is like we'll see the bill. Like if we get in like there's like $500, like that's like we'll just cancel that right away, because like that's like it's
If
not.
we
even
got a
worth talking
CPM
about.
of $1, what's the point?
Yeah, if you're gonna risk pissing off people and all that kind of stuff. But and advertising is a necessary evil, because again, if we could get to a point where we could fully fund Bald Move the level we want to with just using the club, we would get rid of advertising, because like not having advertising is kind of a plus, because advertising does turn people off and it's a barrier to growth. It's but and if we got to that point, we'd probably drop advertising. But it's also, I think, to do the things we want to do, like pay for more employees, to bring Cecily on full time, to be able to do some of the other objectives, like building a studio is going to be expensive. The app that we're planning, is also expensive. And then also, it's the only way to like scale with actual traffic.
Yeah.
Like if you have ads, like the more ears is better. If you don't have ads, the more ears up to a point is like it's only valuable in how many ears you can convert to the club. Whereas if you had ads, like
We've had historically bad conversion rates on that.
Yeah. So like, if you got ads though, like every single 1,000 units of downloaded podcast is bringing value to us and helping pay the bills.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's a necessary evil, and the vast majority of the podcasts that I listen to at this point, that have, that aren't just like garage operations like Gemini, that have, staff that are able to cover a broad range of topics. They all have advertising, and a lot of it. Like, it's not uncommon for me to hear 4 to 6 ad reads in a 45-minute podcast. I think that's excessive. But it's clearly not stopping these people from being top 10 podcasts. So a lot of times, like, it's something that Jim and I have remarked a lot this year, is that it's sometimes hard for us to get perspective on this because we're very atypical consumers.
I think so.
Like, I think we're unusually resistant to advertising. We're unusually resistant to, like, hassles that other people take for granted because, we've got some in our background, some technical skills. So we're, skillful at evading that kind of stuff. And, we're also remember the old internet before pop-up ads and, like, when it was pure and clean and just filled with a bunch of racist, vile, sexist
It was dirty.
shit. Yeah.
It was real dirty.
But it wasn't monetized.
Right.
So it's we always have two minds of this stuff. We're always trying to do things kind of correctly. It's still important to us to, like, not advertise just anything, and to stand behind the products that we do advertise. And again, if we ever find a magic solution that makes the club like 5 times more successful than it is, then we'll be good to go. And that's the other thing is, like, there's been I don't want to step on the general Bald Move update, but, like, this year I was able to take enough out of Bald Move to, like, largely liquidate most of my consumer debt. Which, if you recall from previous the Empire business, was formidable, and that has helped out a lot. But it's like I was talking to Jim. It's like at the beginning of this year. It's like at some point I have to start thinking about how's Jack going to go to college. What happens if one of us have it? Like, I was on a trajectory before I started Bald Move where I was just never gonna have to worry about that kind of stuff because I was getting a lot of money. And here's where it's like I have a conflict because, like, if I was running the world, we'd live in a world where people didn't have to worry about what happens when they get sick. They wouldn't have to worry about how to pay for education to get a good job and to just for personal. They wouldn't have to worry about their being taken care of for mental health. But we live in a world where that's not the case, and, like, I want to work towards that world, but me and my family are living in this other one. And as a father and a husband, I can't continue to let my family kind of twist in the wind. And, Jack's going to be a teenager this year. There's a clock on me being able to save up enough to do some of these things. And it's no longer cool for me to just take, like, a third of the pay I used to make because we're having fun. Like, this is starting to feel irresponsible. So that's a thing that's always going to be a problem with me because, again, like, a lot of times I espouse stuff that's like, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But again, we don't live in the world I want to live in. And
it was either get more ads or run for president and try and, make universal health care and free school.
I'm still working to get on the PTO
ads
board,
are easier.
So it's there's
Really?
there's others, like, it's like we were talking about, like, well, maybe I could, like, moonlight, I could do. But it's like that's I've done that.
What are you gonna do? Lift?
I did. That sucked 7 years ago when I was a much younger man. And like I said, we can just do ads. Ads are things that are on podcasts. There's other things where like we did on the video, like, there's another way to try to break into a larger audience. There's another place where, like, there's monetization tools that are kind of more or less built in. There's other things we want to do, but, like, advertising, it's something we've been pursuing for years and years and years. And this year, it's like we just said, you know what, we need to make a move. And the nice thing about Megaphone also was that it was really nice because, like, even though the ads haven't panned out, one of the things that allows us to really execute fast on the Starburns project is that they had used the Megaphone back end. So it was very easy for us to just go in there and get access to their feeds. And we were already familiar with how to set up all the ads and stuff. So, like, we were ready to go. And I don't know if that would have slowed us down because we were touch and go on this project anyway. There was, like, a 2-week period where, like, we got to go and start producing these podcasts. We're not going to make it. And, like, if we had to get up to speed on Megaphone, maybe that wouldn't have happened. So, like I said, we might take a step back from ads before we take a step forward because one thing Libsyn did well is they sold through our like Game of Thrones stuff, and that's like a huge figure for us.
And some Better Call Saul stuff, some, pretty much our biggest shows, they were selling close to like one per show.
But you compare the industry standard, we were still like it seemed like we were leaving money on the table. So we might try other solutions. We might partner with other ad firms, but we feel pretty good about the Megaphone platform and being set up for the future to be able to make these moves when we need to make them. So yeah, I think did we cover all the topics that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Let me go flip through here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's a lot about advertising. We also did we buried the lead, which is the Starburns audio. We're going to probably
I mean, this is the most exciting thing to happen at Bald Move in ever.
a while.
Yeah.
Since like probably the Save Bald Move campaign, or maybe some of the Groundhog Day stuff we've done. And it's
okay, since February.
Yeah.
It's not been that long.
Yeah, Mark, it felt pretty good for Mark to give us the attaboy. But there's gonna be, like I said, I don't want to promise too much, but I think that this is going to be one of the best produced podcasts we've ever done. Like,
Eventually, it'll start out less produced,
right,
simply because of time constraints. But
if we get to pull off what we're wanting to pull off for like season 3 and especially season 4, it's going to be amazing. And like the doors that'll open if we get to talk and get to the access of some of the people that we're going to get to access, it's going to be fun. And you guys get the, you'll be along right there with us, because we'll be talking about this in Empire Business, and you're going to be seeing the fruits. Like next week, you'll probably see some promos drop in some of your podcast feeds. And we're definitely going to be releasing these Rick and Morty podcasts starting next week. So if you're Rick and Morty fans, good news. You're going to have a shit ton of content. You're going to be primed and ready for rewatches right up to the season 4 release. If you're not a Rick and Morty fan, it's a great time to start. I think it's a show worth watching. It's not for everybody's taste, but if you're a fan of like Always Sunny and some of the more like BoJack Horseman, some of the more subversive comedies like that, and you like science fiction, it's a great place to start, and you'll start to see that. And you also hopefully, when we go to cover The Terror and go in to cover Harlots going forward, and Watchmen and his Dark Materials and all these other things, like you'll start to see the impact of having screeners that we can, have even more in-depth coverage with faster turnarounds. I know a lot of people have asked for like official interviews with people, and we've always been reticent to do that because there's a lot of reasons, but a lot of it came down to like, just, we don't have the time to run that down. It's a very persistent project. And now we've got a person that's like managing all that for us. So if you've been one of those people that wanted to hear a little bit more insider stuff and a little bit more interviews, there's another reason to be happy, because this is all making that possible. So that feels like a pretty informative Empire Business.
I think so.
If it's a couple weeks before we get to the next one out, I apologize in advance. But again, we're super busy with this really exciting Starburns project, and some of these other ones are going to require a little bit more prep time. So, thanks for supporting us in the club. Cannot wait to see how the rest of 2019 goes, and we'll have even more Empire Business to come. See you then.